Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something pretty unsettling, a deep dive investigation that exposes a massive, heartbreaking gap between the romanticized dream of living in Europe and a really dark reality. For so many people, Paris is the city of lights, right? It's the ultimate backdrop for romance, culture, and success. But for a very specific group of vulnerable Nepali immigrants, this colorful Parisian dream has been entirely deceptive. It's basically a mask for a highly organized exploitation ring. So we're going to break down exactly how this underworld operates, the specific tactics they use to trap their victims, and the absolute devastation it leaves behind. Okay, let's dive right into how this all starts. This alluring promise you see here, this is the hook. It's the bait used to lure vulnerable Nepali women into what they truly believe is going to be their European dream. Imagine this. Many of these women are arriving in Europe on seasonal visas or taking really precarious routes. They're thousands of miles from home, they're completely disoriented, and let's be honest, they're desperate for some kind of stability. So when a seemingly helpful group swoops in promising to arrange their accommodation in Paris and even help them navigate those super complex asylum processes, it feels like an absolute lifeline. It sounds like genuine, warm community support. But here is the jarring, tragic reality revealed by our sources today. For so many of these Nepali women, this assistance was nothing more than a carefully laid trap. The whole promise of a safe haven and legal help, just a facade. And it was hiding a thriving underworld of physical, psychological, and financial exploitation, happening right under the community's nose. Section 1. Architects of the Trap. Meet Kalpana and Ujwal. To really understand how a trap like this even works, we have to look at the people running it. Take the 35-year-old woman referred to in the reports as Kalpana. She projects this incredibly wholesome, civilized, almost sisterly image. She isn't hiding in the shadows at all. In fact, she actively uses her membership in Nepali social organizations in Paris to build up institutional trust. She wears organizer badges at cultural events, she posts photos of temple visits and prayers, and by doing all this, she creates a really powerful illusion of safety and piety. She weaponizes this social credibility so that new arrivals will trust her completely. And then enter the 29-year-old man referred to as Ujwal. While Kalpana is busy building this trusted foundation locally in Paris, Ujwal is the recruiter. He's the one reaching out to Nepali women in other European countries, places like Austria and Romania, and he influences them to make the move to Paris. He brings them right to Kalpana's apartment, all under the guise of providing help. But once they're actually there, the sources detail that Ujwal sexually exploits these women, all while Kalpana indirectly supports and protects his behavior. The duality of their operation is just staggering. On one side, you have this beautifully curated social media facade built on festivals, familial bonding, and cultural pride. But the hidden reality? Women are trapped, waiting on totally fabricated asylum claims, and they are forced into low-paid labor in the apartments of the group's acquaintances. It's literally a night and day contrast between public virtue and private exploitation. Section 2. Behind the social facade. The illusion of family. This manipulation seeps into literally every part of the victims' lives inside that Paris apartment. The sources call it the illusion of family. What looks like a perfectly normal, happy gathering actually carries a really dark irony. These seemingly wholesome house parties and family dinners, they're actually used to celebrate the money they've successfully extorted from the victims' families. And here's a crazy detail. Ujwal is never featured in group photos on social media. That separation is highly calculated. They want to completely conceal his presence, his criminal ties, and his sexual exploitation of the women from the outside world, even though he's sitting right there at these private dinners. And the way they extract this money is completely systematic. First off, Kalpana actively pushes the women to demand money and goods from their boyfriends or families back in Nepal. Step 2, she insists that absolutely everything be couriered directly in her name, sometimes even demanding gifts for herself. And she keeps the victims calm with lies. She'll tell them, hey, even if you have a relationship here, we won't tell anyone. We are here for you. It's this incredibly calculated method to drain the victims financially, all while pretending to be their ultimate protector. Section 3. Shattering family ties. The psychological toll. Now, the financial extortion is terrible, sure, but the psychological tactic used here, it's on a whole other level. The reports highlight how the exploiters forcefully sever victims from their support systems. Just picture this stark emotional scene. A husband, back in Nepal, shocked and helpless on a video call, while Ujwal aggressively inserts himself, yelling through the screen with the Eiffel Tower in the background. The group actively conspires to break down Nepali marriages.
They tell the women to leave their partners and promise to find them someone new in France. By destroying these family ties, they isolate the women completely, making them 100% dependent on their abusers. So, what happens when families back in Nepal start getting suspicious? Usually, they catch wind of the truth through distressed phone calls. And when they do, the network launches a massive, dramatic cover up. They deploy intense victim blaming tactics. Kalpana will jump on social media claiming, "She's like a sister. How can you possibly doubt our honor?" If people press harder, they just outright lie. They'll say, "We don't even know anyone named Ujwal." Then they block numbers, ignore contacts from Nepal, and aggressively fabricate excuses to ensure the real story never sees the light of day. The sheer audacity of these exploiters is mind-blowing. Just listen to this quote from Ujwal. He actually threatens the victims' families back in Nepal, bragging about his perceived immunity. He claims that getting European asylum basically makes them untouchable. He literally compares a refugee card to a diplomatic red passport. He uses the geographic distance and their supposed powerful connections in France to completely terrify the victims into submission, convincing them that there is no escape, not even if they manage to get back to Nepal. Section 4. The Cost of Silence. A Community's Complicity. Which brings us to a really tough, uncomfortable question. How does a network like this just keep operating in a bustling, modern city like Paris? Well, the answer lies in the broader diaspora and the absolute devastating cost of silence. The most alarming finding in all these reports is the institutional cover. Because Kalpana and Ujwal's relatives are embedded in these local social organizations, they get to hide behind a veil of community respectability. When desperate families from Nepal reach out to other community members in Paris, begging for help to check on their loved ones, the community often just stays silent. Whether it's fear, apathy, or just not wanting to get involved in drama, this silence is the exploiter's greatest weapon. It directly emboldens them to keep abusing. So, what is the actual takeaway here? The sources make it crystal clear. Dismantling a network like this requires immediate, collective action. It demands real moral accountability from the community. It means a complete boycott of those hiding behind these social facades, rigorous investigations into all these fake asylum claims, and strict, unflinching legal action. Because as the reports so poignantly remind us, money can always be earned again. But lost relationships, shattered trust, and stripped self-respect, those are incredibly difficult to ever restore. Which leaves us with this haunting question to end on. When community members become brokers of exploitation, when they profit off the vulnerability of brand new immigrants and actively destroy lives just to line their own pockets, has humanity truly died in the pursuit of money? It's a profound challenge, really, a challenge to any community to look inward, break their silence, and actually protect the vulnerable among them. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.